Yes! Well, the sun is out. You know what that means. It means we're going flying. Let's go. Bald eagle. Good morning, afternoon, evening, and good night. People, it's so good to see you. Hopefully you can say the same. I'm going flying. I haven't been flying in about 6 weeks. And what I found was that you put pressure on yourself. Well, I put pressure on myself. So I'm thinking to myself, right, where am I going? What's the navigation exercise? How will I get there? Have I planned it? What's the wind? Actually, let me calm my backside down and do some circuits. Take it back to basics. Why am I putting pressure on myself? Huh? Do you know? Why? I don't know. So, let's take a deep breath. Let's do some circuits. It was nice to be back in the air. But boy, is this a perishable skill. So I went back in today. I haven't flown for 6 weeks-ish, like 42 days. And at Compton, currency is 45 days. So I've just done a couple of landings and I wanted to be up for an hour. But today was just learning upon learning upon learning. You have to, I think flying is the same as any other skill where you learn. You don't just, it's not just like, oh, I drive a car, I've got a license, I can drive whenever, however, I can do skids and, nah. Practice. And you have to, or I have to come at this thing with a really humble attitude, because today was a humbling day. Nothing happened that was dangerous, but I also want to be really transparent about this journey. And so, I started by doing my outside checks, and I checked the oil and I thought, right, I'm going to come back to that, and I went off and did something else, and then I forgot to shut the flap and the oil dipstick, which was potentially, catastrophic. It really was quite. And you have to be really single-minded about what you're doing. So that was today's first lesson. Is if you're doing a check, do the check. Finish it. Don't go off course, don't get distracted. If you do get distracted, which was today's second lesson, start again. Which is what I had to do. Shut down my engine and just start from scratch. Don't worry about the time. Don't be pressured about doing all these other things and, I've got to get this. No. If you're doing a check, the checks are there for a reason. Do the checks. The third lesson is that flying is not for the arrogant. It's not for, you just can't have an arrogant attitude. So at Compton we have basically an east to west runway, and today we had the nefarious and notorious southeast wind, which means that the wind is blowing in from the southeast. And whilst that is technically a crosswind, and you can have a certain tolerance for crosswinds, when the wind is blowing from the southeast, just because of the topography and the fact that we're already elevated, what happens is that it's just turbulent. It's just not nice. And so the threshold for a southeasterly is a lot lower than for any other crosswind component. and it was a challenge. It was just a challenge, and I really had to mentally work hard at not having this I've got to land mentality. So I think lesson 3 is going round is your friend. Go around. I think earlier in my training, I was very much, in my solo stuff, I was very much about, no, you can ride it out and you can always go around right at the end if you're not happy. And actually, no, that's not the kind of pilot I want to be. I want to be someone who's safe and professional, and I think that's really important. So those are my tips for today. I think just want to be really open about, look, mistakes were made, innit? So I think lesson 1 is, for me, the take homes for today are that the take home for today is, number 1, if you're doing a check, whether it's the A check, the first check of the day, it's a check in flight, whether you're taxiing, complete that check. Don't get distracted by sick passengers or someone talking on the radio or something happening outside. Unless it's really dangerous, do that check, complete it, beginning to end, check complete, bang. Lesson 2 for me today is, if you get distracted in that check, in the middle of the check someone says, oh, I'll do this, oh, they call you call sign, oh, can you just go around again, or can you go to the fuel pumps, or can you do that? Or you got an instructor or a passenger who's talking to you about something which is really important, and you do manage to get distracted. You don't have the presence of mind to say, actually, give me a second, let me just do this. Start the check again. Better to take a few extra seconds to complete the check than you know everything is done, than you miss something because you got distracted and then take for granted, and all that does is potentially start a cascade and a chain reaction of errors or omissions that are just going to give you a bad day. That's 2. Third, in this gig, in this flying gig, or in anything which is, I don't know, dangerous, or anything really, you have to be humble, man. You got to be humble. I remember in my lessons not so long ago, you know, when I was doing solo sorties, I really felt as though I'm going to touch the plane down. It doesn't matter what happens. If I'm not happy with it right up until the final, but I'm going to get it down. And if I'm really not happy to it just before we touch, then I can put on full power and go. Nah, today was one of those days where the approach was tough, the approach was challenging, and I just wasn't happy with it. So I did a couple of go rounds, and actually, there's no shame in it. There's no shame in knowing your limitations. There's no shame in being safe and getting back down safely and just going up and trying again and giving yourself time to sort out the issue. So don't be that pilot. Don't be that person who is so, nah, I'm gonna get it down, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna go. Don't do that. And I'm speaking to myself, Joe, don't do that. Don't be that guy. If it's not right, it's gonna cost you a couple of extra quid to go around because the flight is gonna take a bit longer. It don't matter. Go round. 4th, it's the same as being humble. You got to be teachable. The check that I messed up this morning, where I hadn't closed a cowling flap and started the engine, and you know, I got kind of pulled into the chief instructor's office today. And actually, nobody likes to be embarrassed. Nobody likes to feel stupid. I certainly don't. We've talked about that before in previous videos. I don't like the idea of failing something or being seen as a failure, but nobody knows everything. And one of the things that Pete was saying, he was the chief instructor, he was saying that actually, you know, he's got 30,000 hours, people still make mistakes. So if we're out there and you're making mistakes, you're in good company, But don't be a, insert bad word here, don't be a muppet when somebody pulls you up on it. Be available to advice, or people saying actually you were an absolute plonker there, which isn't what Pete did. Pete was really nice to me and we had a good chat about it, because even from that I ended up learning about different procedures and, you know, lessons 5, 6 and 7 for me, which I won't trouble you with. But you just got to be confident enough that you can be teachable. Those are today's lessons. Mistakes were made, but lessons were learned. Peace. Okay, so full disclosure, there was like a lesson 4A or something like that. If you're flying, make sure that you've emptied your pockets. I'm not gonna say that my car keys fell out of my pocket and into the aeroplane, and then the person who was hiring the plane after me nearly flew off of it for an hour and I had to run in and stop them on the radio and go and search for them. I'm not saying that happened, but I'm just saying make sure you've got no loose articles or FOD, foreign object damage, anything in your pockets. That's really what I'm getting at.